You're not my type, please.
Everyone in Umidak University knew Daniel as the quiet man with tired eyes and a determined walk. He was older than most students because he had paused his own education to work and train a young girl named Amora. Years earlier, he met her in his village when she was about to drop out of secondary school because her parents were poor farmers. Daniel saw something bright in her eyes, something stubborn and hopeful, and he made a promise to himself that he would sponsor her education. He worked as a bus conductor during the day and studied at night, sending most of his salary to pay her fees, buy her books, and even rent her a small room near campus. People mocked him, saying he was wasting his youth on a girl who might forget him. But Daniel only smiled and said, "She won't forget. She knows my heart." Amora, in those days, was humble, respectful, and grateful. She called him her destiny helper and told everyone he was the reason she would become somebody great. Whenever Daniel visited campus, she ran to him like a child, hugging him tightly, her laughter warm and sincere. Those moments kept him going when his body ached from work and hunger gnawed his stomach at night. Years passed, and Amora blossomed into one of the most admired students in her department. Her beauty became the talk of the faculty, and many men chased her, but she always told them she was already promised to someone. That someone was Daniel. When she graduated with honors, Daniel cried openly in the crowd, clapping louder than anyone. He imagined their future wedding, their children, and the peaceful life they would build together. He even borrowed money to buy her a new phone as a graduation gift. Amora hugged him and whispered, "You are my crown." Daniel believed her with his whole soul. But when she left for her national service year, something began to change. Her calls became shorter. Her messages fewer. When he asked if she was busy, she said yes, that service life was stressful. Daniel ignored the small fear rising in his chest. He trusted her completely. He did not know that distance was not the problem. Pride was. And pride, once it enters a heart, can turn gratitude into shame and loyalty into rejection. When Amora returned from her service year, she did not come back as the girl Daniel knew. She returned dressed in expensive clothes, carrying herself like a queen, her voice sharp and confident. Daniel noticed the change immediately but told himself it was normal. After all, she was now a graduate working in a big office in the city. He prepared a small dinner in his one-room apartment, decorating the table with flowers he picked from the roadside. His hands shook with excitement because he planned to propose that night. He had saved for months to buy a simple ring. When Amora arrived, she looked around the room slowly, her lips tightening. She did not sit until he begged her. They talked for a few minutes. But her tone was distant, as if she were speaking to a stranger. Finally, Daniel gathered courage, knelt down, and brought out the ring. His voice trembled as he said, "Amora, I have loved you from the first day I saw you. Will you marry me and let us build our life together?" Silence filled the room. The air felt heavy. Amora stared at him, not with love, but with something colder. She stood up slowly and laughed. Not a shy laugh. A sharp one. "Marry you," she said. "Daniel, look at you. Look at this place. Look at your life. I have grown. I work with important people now. I attend conferences. I meet men who drive cars worth more than this whole building. You and I are not on the same level anymore." The words struck Daniel like stones. His hands froze in the air, still holding the ring. He tried to speak, but his throat closed. Amora continued, her voice hard. "I appreciate what you did for me, truly. But helping someone doesn't mean they must marry you. Please grow up and face reality." She picked her bag and walked toward the door. Daniel whispered, "Amora, please." She didn't turn back. The door shut. The sound echoed like thunder in his ears. Suddenly his chest tightened. His vision blurred. Pain stabbed through his heart like a knife. He fell to the floor, gasping, the ring rolling from his hand. The last thing he saw before darkness swallowed him was the flower vase tipping over, petals scattering across the ground like pieces of his broken dreams. Daniel woke to the smell of medicine and the soft beeping of machines. His chest felt heavy, as if a stone rested on it. When he tried to move, pain shot through him. A gentle voice said, "Easy. Don't struggle." He turned his head and saw a woman in a nurse's uniform adjusting his drip. She had calm eyes and a warm face that carried kindness like sunlight. "You had a heart attack," she said softly. "You're lucky someone found you early." Daniel's mind struggled to remember what happened, and then it rushed back like a flood, Amora's laughter, her cruel words, the closing door. Tears slid from the corners of his eyes. The nurse noticed but said nothing. Instead, she wiped his face with a soft cloth. "My name is Grace," she said. "You're safe here." For days she cared for him, checking his pulse, feeding him, encouraging him to talk. At first he refused. But Grace had patience like the sea. Slowly, he told her everything, how he trained Amora, how he loved her, how she rejected him. Grace listened without judgment, her eyes filled with sympathy rather than pity. Weeks passed, and Daniel's body healed faster than his heart. But Grace's presence became his medicine. She told him stories of her own struggles, how she lost her parents young, how she worked as a cleaner before studying nursing. Her laughter was soft but genuine, and she never looked down on him. One evening, as she adjusted his pillow, Daniel realized he was smiling for the first time since his collapse. Grace noticed and teased him gently. "So you can smile? I was beginning to think your face forgot how." Daniel chuckled weakly. Something warm stirred inside him, something peaceful and unfamiliar. He began to wait for her shift, counting the hours until she entered his ward. The other nurses joked that Grace had a special patient, but she simply shrugged. Deep inside, her heart had already chosen him. She saw not a broken man, but a faithful soul wounded by betrayal. And she admired that kind of love more than riches. By the time Daniel was discharged, he knew one truth clearly: sometimes the person who heals your heart is the one who deserves to keep it. After leaving the hospital, Daniel expected Grace to disappear from his life like a pleasant dream. But she didn't. She called to check on him, visited with homemade soup, and scolded him whenever he tried to skip his medication. Slowly, their friendship grew into something deeper, something gentle and steady like rain soaking dry soil. Daniel found himself telling her secrets he had never told anyone. Grace, in turn, trusted him with her fears and hopes. Months later, he realized he no longer thought of Amora with pain. Instead, he thought of Grace with quiet happiness. One evening, while they sat outside his apartment watching the sunset, Daniel spoke nervously. "Grace, I don't have riches. I don't have big connections. But I have a heart that has learned how to love faithfully. Will you marry me?" Grace stared at him, shocked, then smiled slowly. "I don't want riches," she said. "I want peace. And you give me that?" She said yes. Their wedding was small but joyful. Friends from the hospital came, neighbors danced, and laughter filled the air. Daniel later got a stable job at a transport company office, and life began to blossom for him. A year later, Grace gave birth to a baby boy with bright eyes and strong cries. Daniel held his son and wept openly, thanking God for giving him a second chance at happiness. 2 years after that, Grace became pregnant again. Their home was filled with peace, playful arguments, and shared dreams. Daniel often wondered how he survived the heartbreak that once nearly killed him. But whenever he looked at Grace's face, he knew the answer. Love had not betrayed him. He had simply given it to the wrong person before. Now, he had given it to the right one, and it was growing like a tree whose roots could never be pulled out. While Daniel's life blossomed, Amora's life was collapsing. The rich man she left Daniel for was named Victor, a flashy businessman who loved showing off. At first he showered her with gifts, took her to expensive places, and promised marriage. Amora believed she had chosen wisely. She mocked her past in her heart and convinced herself she deserved luxury. But Victor was not a man of loyalty. He was a man of appetite. When he met a wealthy older woman who owned properties and businesses, he quickly shifted his attention. Within months, he dumped Amora with a code message and married the older woman in a grand ceremony. Amora was left alone in the apartment he once paid for. The rent expired. Her job became unstable. The friends who praised her disappeared. Slowly, reality stripped away her pride like paint washed off by rain. She remembered Daniel, the man who once looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Regret began to eat her like fire inside dry wood. One evening, after crying until her eyes swelled, she made a decision. She would go back to Daniel and beg him. She told herself he still loved her, that he would forgive her. She imagined him welcoming her with open arms, grateful she returned. That hope gave her courage. She traveled to his town and asked for his address. When she reached his house, she saw children's toys in the compound and heard laughter inside. Confusion filled her mind, but she knocked anyway. Footsteps approached. The door opened. And there stood Daniel, looking stronger, healthier, and happier than she had ever seen him. For a moment, she could not speak. The past and present collided in her chest, and fear crept into her voice as she whispered, "Daniel, I made a mistake." Daniel stared at Amora silently, his expression calm but unreadable. She expected anger or excitement, but saw neither. She began to cry immediately, falling to her knees. "I was foolish," she sobbed. "I was proud. I thought I had found a better life. Please forgive me. Please take me back. I know you still love me." Daniel sighed slowly, not with longing, but with pity. Before he could speak, a gentle voice came from inside. "Honey, who is at the door?" Grace stepped out, her hand resting on her swollen belly. Their little boy ran behind her, holding her dress. She stood beside Daniel, her eyes curious but peaceful. Amara froze. Her tears stopped. Her mouth opened but no words came. The truth struck her harder than any insult. Daniel spoke quietly. "Amora, this is my wife, Grace. And this is our son. Another baby is coming soon." Grace smiled politely, unaware of the storm in Amora's heart. Daniel continued, "I wish you well. Truly. But my life has moved on." Amora's body trembled. The future she imagined shattered before her eyes. She saw what she had thrown away, a man who loved deeply, a home full of peace, a family built on loyalty. No riches could equal what stood before her. She stood slowly, shame burning her face. I understand," she whispered. Daniel nodded kindly, not cruelly. "Take care of yourself, Amora." Grace held his arm gently, sensing his past but trusting his present. Amora turned and walked away, her steps heavy with regret. Outside the gate, she finally broke down, sobbing like a child lost in the dark. Inside the house, Daniel closed the door and looked at his wife and son. Grace squeezed his hand. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Daniel smiled and kissed her forehead. "Yes," he said. "I am exactly where I'm meant to be." And for the first time in his life, the past had no power over him at all.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please stay tuned to Folktales by Aglo for more interesting stories.
Girl, 'cause my love